Pennie with Brave and Unbroken, and I'm here with
Margaret Holzer.
And Margaret is a three-time Olympian.
Two-time Olympian, three-time Olympic medalist.
And survivor and advocate for child sexual abuse. So Margaret, what are you thinking about for April and Child Abuse Prevention Month? And what's on your mind?
Obviously just trying to spread awareness and let people know that it's our month. It's here. We're excited and, just trying to get some awareness out there. So excited to have you guys with us.
Awesome. So something that has been coming to my mind, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, is that all of our stories are different.
Yes.
My story of survival and the abuse that I experienced is different than your story, that's different than my brother's story, that's different than the millions of people and thousands of people out there, and the many people that we hear from and that we talk to. And so I was thinking about the implications of that. And it's kind of like being a survivor of a car accident where someone else has died. I think sometimes we have like that guilt that maybe our story or our experiences aren't good enough, aren't as bad as somebody else. And that kind of thing. So I wondered what your thoughts were around that and how you've worked through that.
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest fears that I had actually when I first went public with my story back in 2008 was I was worried that, what if nobody wanted to hear my story or would care because I hadn't been raped, for example, and what if they would just be like, what happened to her wasn't that bad. And so there absolutely was kind of this fear of, well, maybe I don't deserve to tell my story. There are so many people that have had things that are so much worse than what happened to me. And I think what I've learned and had to learn was that, yes, there are obviously worse things that could have happened, but that does not mean that what happened to me was okay. That does not mean that what happened to me wasn't bad or you know what I mean? And so it was learning that everyone's story, including my own, is unique. What happened to me was wrong. It was bad. And it's not a comparison. And just because what happened to somebody else that has no bearing on what happened to you. And there's also no way to judge that, right? I mean, it's what one happens to one person, there's no way to judge emotional scarring, emotional abuse, physical scarring, physical abuse. I mean, it's so many different layers. And I think that took me a little while to kind of wrap my head around.
I agree. And I've had the same thought, like between my sexual abuse and emotional abuse, I'm thinking, but there wasn't a beating component, right? I wasn't beaten. So, compared to other people, this is just, I need to get over it. I need to move on. I need to do what I need to do. And that's not always the easiest thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I know this is something that a lot of people go through and for a variety of reasons. I have a friend of mine who had a situation happen to her and her parent had something happen. And because her parent was a survivor, her parent compared and kind of looked at that situation and was like, oh, well, it's not that bad, which then added a layer of trauma to what this other person had been through because they had that comparison, right? So you're already going through the thing, and then all of a sudden having somebody say, well, it's not that bad. And again, like, who is to say that, right? Like, there are so many components of every single thing, and how long is something going on, right? How is the grooming process going on? Is it repetitive? I mean, there's just so many elements that you can never say that.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, that abuse is abuse, and whether it be sibling abuse, incest, rape, molestation, indecent exposure, all of these things impact kids, impacts the wiring of the brain, no matter what the difficulty or the badness or the hardness is. I think it's just the implications and the impact could be the same.
Absolutely. And even I think when something almost happens, right, and then you get away and it doesn't happen, people have a tendency to write that off and go, well, you're lucky, it didn't happen.
Right.
I was told for a long time, that I was being groomed to be raped. and then my abuser moved away before that could happen.
Mhm.
All that did for me as a kid, not really understanding what rape was, when I finally connected the dots, figured that out, I started going, oh my gosh, like, what if this, what if I couldn't have had kids after that? What if? And then I went down this what if path of all the horrible things that could have happened,
Yeah,
right? If you're attacked in a nightclub or almost attacked, right? If you have your drink roofied, but then your best friend or your good friend notices something is wrong and you get home and you're safe and nothing bad happens, that doesn't mean the next time you go out to a club, you're not going to be terrified. Your drink's going to be roofied, right? Just because, your attacker didn't get you in the car with you to go home, you still had your drink roofied. And you're never going to have a drink again without kind of looking over your shoulder and clutching it and being terrified. So I think we sometimes go, well, yeah, your drink was roofied, but nothing happened. Why are you so paranoid? But the
right.
fact is it doesn't matter that it wasn't done to conclusion. What matters is that it was done at all, and that
Absolutely.
psychological trauma is still there,
Right.
right? And I think that's a lot of times what people take for granted.
I agree. I agree. So let's talk about how you work through that.
With difficulty. No,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the first step is honestly acknowledging it. The first step is acknowledging that your story matters, and that what happened to you, it happened, and it has weight, it has value. And then I think once you acknowledge that, and that you don't compare yourself to someone else, and you don't say, well, it could have been worse, or this person had that, or whatever. I mean, because again, you can always go down the what if tree. But once
Absolutely.
you acknowledge that what happened to you was not okay, and that it just wasn't okay, I think that's kind of the first step. And then, I have always said I am a huge, huge advocate of getting professional help. So I think going to therapy, I mean, at a minimum, talking to your friends, but absolutely just don't bottle it up. That's probably the worst thing you can do. So, talk to somebody. That's just hands down, whether that's a priest or a pastor, whether that's a psychologist, like I said, whether it's friends, a school counselor, finding somebody, and having that outlet to be able to talk about it, because it's important.
Absolutely. When was the first time you had another survivor tell you or talk to you about their story? And when did those things start ticking in your head?
Goodness. Trying to think. I know I had someone in college. I want to say maybe in like high school even.
Mm,
I think, but definitely in college for sure. I had a friend of mine, and actually this same friend, is the only person ever that's guessed that I was abused.
oh,
And
really?
so, yeah. I mean, I was pretty good at hiding it. At least I thought I was. But no, I had a friend that guessed it, and just flat out said, you don't have to tell me, but do you mind my asking? And then, of course, when they just point blank asked me, I was like, well, actually. And then because I acknowledged it, they then told me their story.
All right.
So I was probably 21, 22. It might have been right after college. It might have been even 23, something like that. Um, but I'm trying to remember if anything in high school or not. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, for a really long time, I was kind of alone, so to speak, in my own world without knowing that there were, I mean, yes, conceptually I knew there were other people, but I didn't know there were other people.
Right. And I think acting is something that we just inherently learn when you're going through this, right? Keeping the secrets, not letting anyone see or know what's going on for you. And
Oh,
so, yeah,
absolutely.
and that goes back to
Absolutely.
survivor guilt, right? And victims and the role that we end up being put in against our will, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and even I would say, even though, I was told very early on that it wasn't my fault. And I don't consciously think I ever thought it was my fault. Um, but I did think on some level there was like something wrong with me. And so, like I said, I can consciously say that I never, thought that I had done anything to ask for it or that I had done anything to deserve it. But I don't know. I always kind of had this feeling like, well, I don't think right, or I don't act right, or, like I'm damaged, like I'm
Right.
damaged goods. And because of that, the wiring's all messed up and I don't process information right. And so it's kind of like I didn't want anybody to get too close and like figure that out, like a Monet painting. It looks good from back, but you get too close and it's like, ooh. I didn't want anybody to really, get close enough to figure out that it wasn't quite, connecting right.
Yeah, I think that's that arm's length thing that
Yes.
happens for a really long time.
Yes,
And I think
absolutely.
actually continues to happen in some degree.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. So any closing thoughts you have on this topic that you want people to think about, or survivors out there who have not opened their mouth and been able to get the words out?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, you don't have to tell anybody. It's knowing. I think it's important to share your story because I do think that keeping things inside can be detrimental. Um, but obviously, you don't have to share it with like the world. I mean, unless you want to, unless you feel comfortable doing so. But I think again, acknowledging that any abuse, any form of verbal, emotional, physical, obviously none of that's okay. Any bullying, any almost, it almost happened, any
Right.
grooming, none of that's okay. And acknowledging that and knowing that you didn't ask for it. And just recognizing that and knowing that I think is very, very important. And knowing that there are people that care and if you do want to talk about it and there's a lots of people that care and want to help.
Absolutely. There's some adult or some friend or family member that you trust that you can
Absolutely.
definitely share your story with. Or you can reach out to
Absolutely.
us. One of us
Yeah,
will always be here. You can reach out to us. We're online.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this will wrap up this episode. So thank you so much, Margaret, for being here with Brave and Unbroken Project.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. See you
Bye.
later.